This is the YCR 150, aka Shmee150's Porsche 914. This used to be a financial disaster. The reason I say it used to be is because this was an absolute shed ready for the bin, and we've just about almost fully restored it. Now in this episode, we're going to get this car off of the jig, off of the rollover jig, get it onto the ramp, start putting the running gear on, and hopefully get it back on its wheels, get the engine in, and hopefully get the outside painted. Really have come so far with this car in the past couple of months. Now to get it painted, we need to be getting this running gear back on the car. Now we've got the bushings in there from Powerflex, link is also in the description to Powerflex. Big thanks goes out to them for the bushings. So we're going to get this back on the car, get it onto the ramp first, get it on the car, and hopefully finally meet a major milestone of getting this car back on its wheels. But also we're going to be working on the body of this car as well, and that involves PDR, and that's where another Ryan comes in. Ryan, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so tell me about ProDent.
So ProDent is my company. I'm a PDR specialist, which involves removing dents from vehicles without damaging the paint.
Fantastic. So we've got dents variously all over the car basically. We've got some dents where obviously we've done the repairs, where we've welded it and it's shrunk down and it's sort of like not perfect, and that's where Ryan comes in with all this equipment that is brought. ProDent, links in the description. Let's do it. So when welding, it kind of shrinks the metal together, and that's where PDR comes in, because Ryan's going to be working hard on the body throughout this episode, trying to pull the dents out so we don't have to put too much filler into the car. Now this whole project has kind of led up to this moment of getting the car back on its wheels and getting it painted. Now there's not much more to do on this car once it's painted, so this is a major milestone, getting it off the rotisserie and starting to get that running gear back on. Here we're going to take the bolts out that screw the rotisserie to the actual body of the car. Now the moment of truth, lifting the car out of the rotisserie. We've finally got the car off the rotisserie. Now I think the car's only been on the rotisserie for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, which is absolutely crazy. Our custom built rotisserie. Now the car's on the ramp and we're going to start on the running gear. So we need to get the front and the rear running gear on. Ryan's going to be working on the back over there, getting all the dents sorted out, and the front here as well, because I know that there is one in the front here. Going to look around the car, make sure that all the dents are, you know, as far as he can get them, so there's not much filler on this car. But first, we're going to get the engine moved, because we need to move this big gantry crane up here that's blocking out all of the light. So we'll get the engine moved behind the car so it's in prime spot, and then we'll get the gantry crane back over there, and then we'll start getting the running gear back on the car. Once that's done, we can start bringing over the front and the rear running gear and place them somewhat where they need to be. All this running gear has been refurbed and painted previously, but we might just need to touch a couple of areas up. It is a little bit dusty as well. Now this is actually a hot glue technique for the PDR. Now he's sticking a dolly to the actual car body, and then once it gets down to temperature, he can then start pulling it and using his hammer to knock down the high spots. Now me and my Uncle Richard are working on the steering rack. We can get that bolted up. Once we've done that front right side, we can move on to the front left side and start getting that suspension strut on. And here you can see Ryan using leverage to actually pull that panel out. Once the front is done, we can start moving on to the back. First we need to get the springs in, so we're going to use the spring compressor to compress the springs together to then insert them onto the strut. Now here you can see us taking measurements because this is the corner that we've repaired. We've completely replaced and repaired. Now this will obviously need tracking and alignment, and we'll also need to make sure that everything is 100% correct before putting this back on the road. Huge moment on the 914. Now we've got the running gear on the front and the back. We've not put the engine and gearbox in because there's no real need to just yet, and we've still got a couple of little bits and bobs to do to the engine, so we're going to leave it out for now. So the rear running gear should be able to hold itself. There shouldn't be an issue with that. So I think it's about time to get it finally back on its wheels after probably about 7 months of this car not having its running gear back on, not having its running gear on. We're finally going to take it down so it can sit on its own feet and push it into the paint shop. Again, this really is a big moment for this build, and it's really satisfying to think of all the challenges that we've faced with this build, and then finally seeing that rubber touching the concrete. It's such a big moment. And now the paint process begins. Now this really is a tedious process and it does take a lot of time. So in certain areas, Steve's going to put a light coat of body filler on there just to make sure everything's perfect, and then he can cover it all in a good layer of primer. So the next day, now the primer's dry, Steve can get a guide coat on there and start rubbing that primer down. And it all comes down to this moment, the moment where this car is going to be completely transformed and turned into the ruby stone red majestic colour, the whole thing. Now obviously we've already done inside here, inside the car, inside the engine bay, but that's one thing. But the other thing is getting the whole car in that complete colour, and then being able to throw the doors on and throw everything else on and seeing the final product of this car. Now this has been quite the journey, and you know, the amount of rust and the amount of bad repairs that are actually on this car is unbelievable. Anyway, let's stop digressing, let's get some paint on the car. Cannot tell you how satisfying it is to see this car finally painted. And there it is, painted fully. Now, I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but this is more of like a deep purpley red type, a little bit like my jacket that's got holes in it. But this hasn't got holes in it anymore because this is nice and protected, and yeah, it's so nice to get it actually to this stage. And I hope the camera's picking the colour up because it's not a pink like people think it is. It's more of a deep purple, which is really nice. So, I'm not going to show you any more of the car because that's going to be it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to roll this out of the paint shop, get some space around it, and start bolting panels onto this car and getting it just about complete, if not fully complete. So make sure you smash that like and subscribe button because it is free, and we'll catch you in the next episode.